Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Today, I feel like I really have an important webinar for you, and that's just tips and things that you need to look for and ideas to help get you started. So that's really what it is today. Just some basic tips and rules of thumb that you need to take care of your whole system. From cleaning and from setting the belts correctly to making sure that you're lined up straight as you put your quilt top on. So I'm just going to get started. So again, thank you for joining me today. And we did some pre-recorded video for you to show you some specific items that I wanted you to look at. And the very first one is of how to loosen the belts to work with free motion quilting so you don't have to undo them completely. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to the front of the frame and I am loosening the belt and taking it out. I'm not pulling it all the way out of it, the automation, because you don't want to. You just have to take it out and tape it down. And I have some specific instructions, and for you that emailed me last week, I'm sending them to you today. Just make sure that you loosen it and don't pull it all the way out because you don't want to re-thread it through. Just loosen it, take it out, and tape it down. And you don't even have to take the brackets off, but you do need to, as you're quilting. I found the hard way, so learn from me. You need to screw the brackets back into place. Otherwise, they'll kind of hang down, and as you're free motion quilting, they'll hit. So make sure that as you loosen them, take the belt out and tape it down, that you retighten that bracket into place and just leave your little 3mm Allen wrench there so that you can loosen it and re-thread it when you're ready to use the automation. But it's not hard at all, and it does allow you that free motion movement that you need and that you want without the belts hitting. Now, if you just loosen the belts, they're still attached. And let me explain to you why that's not a good idea to not take them all the way out and just loosen them. So when you leave the belts attached, you have especially on your top bracket that's attached to your sewing machine or your top plate, that belt is tied to either one end or the other, and it just pops up and it just gives you that jerky movement. So it'll pop up into your movement of your machine, and then you'll miss your nice free fluid motion as you're quilting. So make sure that you take them all the way out and tape them down. And so I just wanted to reiterate that. And I do have those instructions. And again, if you want them, you'll be able to find them on our website. But in the meantime, till we get them on there, you are welcome to email me. It's Karla with a K, Karla, at Grace, GRACE, frame, FRAME.com. So make sure you email me and I'll get them to you. And I did some really good pictures so that you should be able to see and understand how it works. It's not hard. And it's one of those important steps that you need to use. Okay, now we're going to move to the video on the encoders and how to make sure that they are attached correctly to your sewing machine, and also make sure that the tension is correct on them. Now, if you have an encoder, it should feel like it's pushing its way down, or it should feel like it's forcing its way down. Now I'm loosening the screw, this little set screw on the little collar piece, to show you what it's going to be like if, and I'm showing you here how to plug it in. And the correct ports to plug it in. It's the green ports to match the green on the collar. Okay, and now, and I wanted to show you the one underneath, how it should be like it's forcing its way down. Now, I'm also showing you the correct way to plug in the cords for your automation. And that L-shaped cord is a USB cord, but it's specifically designed for the port on the bottom plate of the automation. make sure you plug it into the correct port, and also make sure that that cable that looks like the telephone and your encoder, it plugs into the sewing cable port, and make sure that it's plugged into the correct ports. And so I'm showing you where you're supposed to plug it in. And the other end of that USB cable plugs in directly into the sewing machine. And then you have another cable that sits on top that plugs into the top. So just make sure that you're plugging them in correctly. We really want to help reduce the phone calls and the misunderstanding of it not working correctly. So these are some little steps that if you're struggling and having struggles, that you can look at and see if it's plugged in correctly before you call. So anyway, that being said, on the encoders themselves, if it doesn't feel like it's pushing its way, forcing its way down, and it's loose, it's really loose, you won't get the sensing of the movement and the correct stitches. So make sure that you have that little collar piece up and it's forcing its way down. So make sure, yeah. So make sure, and also make sure that the encoder wheel, as it's moving along the tracks on both the top and the bottom, you can kind of feel it. It's hard to see because it's black and the track is black. Make sure that you put your hand under there and make sure that you feel it moving all the way across it. Because if it all of a sudden goes over a bump or something like that, you could get a skip stitch or a long stitch, and you don't want that. Okay, the next video is one I'm excited to show you because it didn't take us very long to find a frame that had a lot of buildup on the wheels. This is a really important step to make sure that you're cleaning your wheels and your tracks properly. Notice that on the wheels themselves, they're flat, and so the lint, and every time you go back and forth, and the lint from the threads and just the dust in the air will build up on your tracks and build up on your wheels. So make sure you're cleaning your tracks, and you don't have to use Clorox because it leaves a residue and it'll just attract the lint even more. So just use damp cloth and water to clean your wheels. I just used a Kleenex and it worked really well. Now, if you get a lot of buildup, what happens with time is it will wear on your tracks, and you'll start seeing the lint as your wheels are going back and forth, just like your tires. It wears down your tracks, and so you'll have to replace them more often. So make sure you're keeping them clean. And like anything on a car, the tracks do wear down. And so they are one of those things that eventually you will have to replace. That's just the nature of it. And you shouldn't have to do it too often, but the V-grooved ones, you probably will have to do a little more often because they're up a little higher and the wheels are going back and forth. So just know that that's part of the maintenance and maintaining your machine. And you will want to, if you start getting little cracks and bumps in them or little grooves or divots, you will want to change them out, especially if you're free motion quilting, because you will really feel those as you're moving along and as you're quilting front and back, side to side. So it's very important that you make sure that you clean and maintain your system. I just did my Minky quilts the other day, and I had to go through the whole room and clean everything because the little hairs get all over the place. So just make sure that you're wiping everything down every time you quilt, and you'll have better success. Now let's get to where we're putting our quilt on the frame. Once you have attached your backing to your leader cloth, to your front and back, I usually roll it up. Now, one trick and one thing I wanted to reiterate, and that is very important, that you always, 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 always roll your backing up onto your pole that holds the backing. If you decide that you want to skip a step and float all 3 layers, you will run into problems. And I am here today to warn you not to do that. I'm going to show you an example of a quilt that I thought, hey, this would be great. I don't want to roll it up. And I am sad to say that I got a little wrinkle. But, learn from my mistakes. And don't do them yourself. So that's what I'm here for. I wish I could make all the mistakes in the world for you, but I can't. So see this right here? I have this nice wrinkle. And if it had been a quilt that was on the front, I probably would have unpicked it, but it was too far gone. I didn't want to unpick it. So I'm just leaving it here. Little did I know that down the road I would become an educator and that I could use this as an example of what not to do. So it was really a little blessing in disguise that I kept it this way so that you could learn from me. This is what I did. This was such an awkward quilt that I decided that I would float all 3 layers. And because you're watching the top and the batting and not the backing, you will get wrinkles in it. So make sure that you don't float all 3 layers. Okay, that being said, I want to talk about when you're putting your quilt on. Now, I quickly did this without leaders, so don't say where are the leaders, because I have several videos to show you how to pin your fabric to the leaders and get started using the leaders. But I wanted to show you a nice little trick so that you can line up your top with a straight line. So what I did was I got my backing on and I rolled it up in there so it's not going to shift or move on me. And then I'm going to push my foot so that the foot hits the back pole or the take-up pole. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it while it's hitting that pole across my quilt to make a straight line. And this gives you a nice, straight, even line so that you can line your top up to and start out nice and straight. And I hope you can see it because it's white thread. I didn't have time to change it, so hopefully we can zoom in and show you. Okay. So anyway, I'm just going to move it out and cut my threads here. All right. And so now I have this straight line right here all the way across my quilt. And I can take my top and make it so that it's as close as possible to straight. And yours is going to be a lot straighter than mine. And just because I just cut this off and it really isn't that straight of a cut. But you'll have a nice border on your quilt. And then what you'll do is you'll smooth it all out. And then I like to come back to my left side. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of tack it down. And I'm going to move it off to the side right here. As far as I can reach, the machine will reach. And I'm going to tack it down as I'm quilting. And I'm just going to move along the edge. Just right along the edge. And I'll take my fingers and just make a little space so I have a guideline to guide me. But see how close to the edge I'm getting? That's how you do. And then you'll just leave that. And then when you put your binding on, nobody's ever going to know that you tacked it down. And see how it came down just a little bit because it's not exactly straight. But just go along the edge and tack it down, okay, as close as you can. So that you're not wasting or that your binding doesn't have to actually do it better than I did it. But anyway, so I just wanted to show you that little tip. And then when you roll it, you'll tack down the sides. So it's not going to shift or move or cause you any heartache. And so that you don't get little wrinkles up there. Now, as you're rolling your quilt. Okay, so that's one other tip. Now, if you have a quilt, just going to let it go and do its thing. if you have a quilt and it's laying on the floor and you want to keep it up off the floor because you have animals and you think that they're going to get into it or people are going to step on it. Let's see, as I'm quilting here, I want to keep my quilt up off the floor because the floors get really dirty and people really don't pay attention to your quilt and they'll step on it not knowing it. So I'm going to use both sizes of quilt clips. I used my 1.5 inches because that's the diameter pole I have. And what I'm going to do is bring this up and I'm just going to right down here on the edge, just show you what the 2-inch can do so that you can use both. And this just really keeps it up off the floor and keeps it out of the way. So if you've ever wondered why you would want both sets of quilt clips, this is one reason why. It just keeps it off the floor and it's really nice. And it's not that hard to take off. And then as you roll your quilt, you just put it back on till it's up off the floor. And even if you have little kitties that want to claw at things, yeah, make sure that you bring it up so that they don't get into it and are hanging from it. So that's another tip I wanted to show you. Actually, do we have any questions or any comments? Oh. Yeah, channel locks are awesome. If you don't know what channel locks are, I don't think I have any on today, but we will. In my strip quilt video, I did show you how to use those where you lock it into place. You get, when you order the frames, you get channel locks. You get one for the bottom carriage, which is your side-to-side movement, and one for the top carriage, which is your front to back. Now, when you want to lock your top carriage into place and you want to move it side to side in one location so you can adjust it, you will lock your top carriage into place so it's not moving front to back, and you'll just move your machine across the quilt and it'll give you a nice straight line because you can't move it front to back. So those are what channel locks do. They give you nice straight lines. And if you wanted to lock and make a horizontal line down your quilt as far as you could go, what you'd do is you'd lock your bottom carriage into place so you couldn't move it side to side, and you'd pull the machine towards you. And you could do that all the way along your quilt. So you have to lock them and unlock them, but they hold it very securely into place if they are installed correctly. And when we, on our frame videos, we have showed you how to install them. So make sure that you go back and watch those videos because they really are important and they show you how to install them correctly. Okay. And here's a question from Jen. Is there a way to tighten the locks? Mine has become a little bit loose. Yes, there is. There's a little screw on them that it's towards the top, and I wish I had a channel lock here, but I don't. So go back and watch the videos, but there's a little screw on the top that you can tighten or loosen so that you're having it forced downward correctly. But you know what, Jen? We'll try to get those added to the instructions so that you know how to tighten them. And sometimes if they're wobbling back and forth, it's not that screw that you unscrew the little stopper on it that comes down. It's the screw on the wheel. So you need to make the adjustment to the wheel because these channel locks attach to the wheels on either your machine or your carriage. So hopefully we can get that taken care of for you. Okay, and then Diana says, hi, I'm installing my queen frame in the Unique 15R. Congratulations, way to go. Very excited for you. Love the machines. And free motion quilting is so much fun. So just a couple other tips I wanted to talk to you about. Again, I want to reiterate how important it is for you to adjust the height of your foot. I'm getting a few emails about I'm getting skip stitches. What do I need to do? Now, skip stitches could be a couple of different things. So if you get skip stitches and you see the needle is going down and you see little holes in your quilt, then it could be a couple of things. It could be that your foot is too high off the needle plate of the machine, or it could be a timing issue. So it's just a matter of checking it out and figuring out what's going on. So make sure that as you put your foot in the down position, that there is not too much room. If there's a lot of room underneath right here, because I've done this several times. See how mine just sits on top of that gauge? And there's not a lot of room underneath? Yeah, so make sure that you check that height gauge, okay? And make sure that the foot's not up too high. Now, timing, it's not hard to do. And we have a nice timing tool that can help you time it. So don't be afraid to try and jump in and time the machine. I see Janet George is on and she's giving her tips. Thank you, Janet. Yeah, because it's not hard to do and it's not hard to help maintain your machine and learn it. And the more you learn about your machine, the better you will be at figuring out what is going on with it. So that being said as well, I want to talk to you about the bobbin case and the bobbin, okay? So right now I'm pretty low on the bobbin, so I am going to take my bobbin case out and I want to show you how the lint, see how it can build up? I don't know, can I walk up a little closer? Yeah, so see the lint build up right there? On that, as you put it in, that can cause some problems. And then inside there, I have lint as well. I hope you can see that. Make sure that every time you change your bobbin, that you are cleaning it. Now, I'm not saying dig in there and make it so the spring pops up out, but you can blow it out or get your little tool and clean it out. Just blow it. And sometimes I have to take my hand and just loosen it so I can get the rest of it out. But that, just like your wheels, can build up and cause you problems. Okay. Whew. Okay. So now that I've cleaned it out, I just want to show you how nice clean it is. I'm going to put my bobbin in. Now, if you overfill your bobbin, using our nice bobbin winders, if you overfill it, which is easy to do, it'll be fatter all the way around. So it won't fit into your bobbin case as nice as you want it to. So make sure you do not overfill your bobbin because that never-ending bobbin, we're trying to work on. Okay. Yes, you can call and we can get you a height gauge or just email me with your address. And man, I'll put one in the mail for you. So please. Okay, so I just want to show you. So I want you to put it in. I always put it in backwards, but you want to make sure that it's moving clockwise. So you'll put it through the little slot here and bring it up under the little arm there. That's a little tension arm. And then I pull it. And see, I put it in backwards. I like to say I did that on purpose so that you guys could see how not to do that. But I always do it that way. So I always have to turn it around. And then you want to make sure it's turning clockwise. And you want to know clockwise, it's how the hands of the clock turn. That's the direction you want the bobbin to turn. And you want to make sure that you can see that it pops up and down. You want it slightly so that spring is doing its job. You don't want it down in, so you want to make sure that it's popping in and out. So just kind of do that little test. And then make sure, as you put it in, do not hold the lever, okay? On our machines, it's really quite easy just to hold it just like this, all right? And bring it over to your machine, and then just hold it so that the lever is straight, and then push it in, but you want to hear it snap. And when you hear it snap, you know it's in. If you don't hear it snap, take it out and do it again, because you don't know if it's in. So then you'll just pull your bobbin thread up, and you should be good to go with your quilting. And quilting is so much fun. All right. All right, let's go to that question about belts. Okay, Pam, she says, when you loosen the belts for free motion, do you loosen the left and right and the front and back? Yes. But I don't pull them all the way out, so I have to rethread it. I just take the front of the top bracket off and the back off, and I tape them down. And on my instructions, I show you clearly how to do that. And I don't pull them out of the plates, is what I'm trying to say. So you don't want to. All you have to do is loosen them, but you do have to tape them down, because if you leave them up, like I said, those belts will jump up and impede your quilting, and you will feel them. And then what's the use of loosening the belts at all if you're going to leave them connected to the brackets? So we're just taking them off the brackets and taping them down, and that's all. Any other questions? Okay, Janet. Janet George, will clamps larger than the pink ones be offered? I am trying. Progress takes a little bit of time, because you're right. When you're using minky fabric, it kind of makes it harder for you to use the clamps. And so, yes, we will have some, but I don't know how long it will be. But yeah, so for those heavier fabrics, which are really popular. Yes, and if you want to order the clamps, make sure that you're ordering before Christmas, because like I said last week, there's kind of a buildup on the docks, and we're not getting our containers like we're supposed to. And with California shutting down, we don't know how much longer that will be. So maybe Santa Claus will surprise us and get them here quicker. That would be awesome. Huh? Is today the last day? No, actually, Monday will be the last day that you can actually order for Christmas. However, again, if you're waiting for your 21s and your frames, we're so sorry of the situation. It has caused, again, a buildup. But just know, the minute they get here, we have our elves working on them, and they will be going through the QC process and all the processes so we can get them to you as quick as possible. But understand that the circumstances of this time and day and age that we live in have just kind of taken it out of our control. And so we are hoping that, by February and March, we'll be back to a guaranteed shipping time. But for right now, it's even extended it to, I think, 4 weeks now, because we're waiting 4 weeks for our containers to get off the boat to here, and even longer. So anyway, just know that. Any other questions or? No. Okay, Gloria asked if I float all 3 layers, and Gloria, no, never float all 3 layers. That was that quilt I showed you earlier. When you float all 3 layers, you are not watching your backing, and so by the time you get to the end of your quilt, you will get wrinkles in it. And there's nothing worse than to take your quilt off the frame after you think, oh, you've done all this wonderful quilting, and turn it over and see a big old wrinkle all the way down. And so let me show you again. What happens when you float all 3 layers? You get wrinkles. because you're watching your top and your batting, and you're not watching your backing, and you're not making sure that the wrinkles are out of it. Now, if you want to, and you want to make sure that you watch your backing, but I think it's just worth it to roll the backing all the way up onto your backing pole and float the top and the batting. And just use your quilt clips to keep it up off the floor. And all right, and so anyway, I just want to leave you with a couple more tips with when you're free motion quilting. Make sure that if you're running into thread breaking or things like that, that you look at how your machine is threaded, okay? Sometimes it's not threaded correctly, or if you see that the tension's off, make sure that you look at your bobbin and how it's working. Sometimes the thread underneath in the bobbin can wrap around the little lever of the arm. And then also, this can get wrapped up around this piece right here, this tension knob. And then sometimes you won't notice it, but you'll have something hooked up somewhere. Or you haven't pulled your thread between the disc like you should. So it's just laying off to the side right here on the disc and not between them. Or it's just laying on this and it's not pulled towards you, towards the disc center. So you're not getting any tension. So that can cause loose stitches. And I'm just going to show you. I'm going to pull it out here. Okay. And it's off on the side. It'll probably break now too. So anyway, see, my stitches are all loose and underneath. Let me show you what it looks like underneath when it's just sitting on top. Look at how loose that is. So if your stitches are looking like that and really loose, and you see it's loose on top and on the bottom, and you just, make sure that you're double checking to see if it's threaded correctly. You can catch a lot of little problems. Sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I think I was blowing on the lint and I got a little down my throat. So anyway, make sure you know how that, that it's threaded correctly. And hopefully, once you do, you're sewing correctly. And if you keep it nice and clean, you will have great results with your free motion quilting and with your automation. And just enjoy it. Now, just make sure that you watch and do take care of these tips. And I just want to thank you for joining me today. Sorry about my little mishap. I really apologize. And just make sure you keep it clean and keep your belt in place. that you work really hard to maintain your machine correctly. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for all you do, and we'll see you next time.